Right, hi guys, this is the third video of three about this question 3 in the IGCSE. So what I wanted to do just to wrap up is show you how I would think about writing a paragraph, writing a three-paragraph response to this. And how can I use what we talked about in the second video to make my paragraphs make sense and get me that 8 or 9 that I'm looking for. We spoke about the fact that what jumped out at me in particular was we're talking about persuasive language, and what immediately that makes me start thinking about is ethos, pathos and logos. There isn't a lot of logos in there, not much. There probably is somewhere, but what really strikes me is the ethos and pathos. So how is he persuading us? He's persuading us by demonstrating his credibility. What gives him the right to talk to us about this? Well, if you just look at the first paragraph, he says he's been doing what he's been doing for 30 years. So he's giving us, demonstrating his credibility. And it's more than that, because he's also suggesting to us that because he's admitting that he's biased, it makes us more likely to trust him as an authoritative source, because we feel that he may be more objective than if he disguised his bias and tried to give us something that was apparently objective. Okay, so we've got those two things that we can talk about, and I would make that, but what we don't have is logos, because I was immediately thinking when I first saw this, I thought, okay, I can do 3 paragraphs here. I can do one on ethos, one on pathos, one on logos. We don't have enough on logos. Okay, so I'm going to have 1 paragraph on ethos and pathos, and I'm going to pick my examples out of the text. That should be easy. And I can start with something like, so we're still going to use our PEE structure. So how am I going to do my first paragraph on pathos and ethos? I'm going to start with something like, I wrote something down earlier. The writer uses the rhetorical appeals of ethos and pathos to persuade the reader of the importance of reading. So that's your P. That's your P and your point. Finding examples, well, they're all over the place. There's lots of them. This idea that he says I'm biased. The idea that he says he's been doing this for 30 years. Those are the 2 key ones. You could probably find more, but we're not going to spend too much time doing that. And then I need to be able to explain why this has an impact on the reader, and I've just been talking about that. It's because we are more likely to trust this person because of the experience that they have, and because they're saying to us, they're admitting that they're biased. So we like that, and it's more likely that we will trust them. So bang, paragraph 1, done. What am I going to do about a second paragraph now? What did we find? The other thing that struck me was, well, there were 2 things. First of all, the concept of the first, second, and third person, the use of these in the text, because he changes it. He starts off in the third person. It is important for people to know it's third person, and it's sort of objective type language. And then he immediately goes into I, which is first person, which brings us closer to him. He gives us his personal opinion. And then he moves on to you, which of course is communicating directly with me. So I think I would want to create a paragraph on that. I know I can create a paragraph on that. My point is he uses first person, second person, and third person in his text to engage me as a reader, to engage the reader, and also to appeal directly to me through the use of the second person. So that's my point. I've got loads of examples, any number of examples in the text, and if I'm going to explain that, well, by doing this, he engages the reader and he appeals directly to me as the reader, blah, 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 blah. So I can create a nice paragraph out of that. Probably not that long, but it's a good, solid paragraph, point, evidence explanation. Yes, fine. So I've got 2 paragraphs now. What about a third paragraph? Well, we've got things that I spotted when I went through. I didn't highlight them because I was going fairly quickly, but there's lots of, you know, if we go back to our thinking about text level features, then sentence level features, then word level features, then we can sort of open this thing up a little bit. I mentioned that he uses conjunctions to start his sentences with, and he uses very short sentences juxtaposed with, don't forget that word, it's a great word, okay? Juxtaposed with longer sentences. This makes it more interesting, makes the text more interesting. And the short sentences tend to be punchy, they carry a lot of weight because they're so short. And of course, starting with a conjunction, which is what we're not supposed to do. Never start a sentence with and, never say never in language. By using conjunction at the start of a sentence, again, it adds emphasis to that sentence. It draws our attention to that sentence. So we could probably create a paragraph which contains a mixture of things. And then if we can identify those, then we can start our paragraph by saying, the writer also employs various literary techniques which help engage the reader and keep their attention. Something like that. That's fine. That's your point. Your evidence then is going to be a mixture of things. Nobody says you can't put more than one item in a paragraph. So we could have anything that we can spot that's left over. So we could talk about, as examples, we can talk about what I've just said. He uses conjunctions at the start of a sentence. He mixes short sentences and long sentences. What about, so that's our structural thing. What about words? The words, his word choices. There's lots of interesting vocabulary there. I'm not going to go through it in detail now, but there's lots of adjectives in there which are interesting. I spotted some adverbs which were quite interesting. And there are other phrases that he uses which attract our attention. There was also, for that matter, the imagery of, and I think there's some metaphor in there as well. There's that imagery of navigating the oceans. That's what made me think of it. May not work for you, but there was that imagery of navigating the world with words. I thought that was really nice. You could add that in. So there's lots of different things. And there's alliteration, of course. I highlighted the alliteration and the anaphora. My God, we've got to get the anaphora in there. That's definitely worth a mark. So that was in the third paragraph. That was lovely. You know, this bit here. Look at that. People who cannot understand each other, cannot exchange ideas, cannot communicate. Yes, we're talking Martin Luther King. Anaphora. It's wonderful. And we even had the alliteration which immediately precedes that with communicate and comprehend. Okay, I think I'll probably leave it there. You've got the basic idea. We've ended up with 3 paragraphs. Ideally you wanted an introduction, but that can be as simple as you like. I'll leave that up to you. The conclusion again can be as simple as you like, but it's just going to summarize what you've been saying. You've got your 3 paragraphs and you'll say something like, and in conclusion, the author uses clear rhetorical appeals, interesting word structure, and the use of first and second person to engage the reader. End of conclusion. Thank you very much. Give me my 9 now. So there you go. Have a look back at that, see what you think. Don't forget to print off or look at the text from the files that I've sent you in Edmodo. And if you have any questions, we can talk about it in class next week. I hope you found that useful. Okay, see you later. Bye.